Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 442. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today, we got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hello. I'm being updated constantly on Amanda's Chipotle order.
Ooh, what's the status?
Well, first, her order was ready. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whatever, I'm not Amanda. So I deleted it. And then the next one was telling me that they're on their way with the Chipotle. And I said, still not interested, I'm not Amanda. And then now I just got a text of the Chipotle sitting outside of her front door.
That actually happened to me last week, I believe. It was either last week or the week before. Same exact thing where someone ordered some food and they must have put in the wrong phone number. They put in mine. And I was getting the play-by-play. And this one was interesting, though, because they couldn't find her apartment. So they called me.
No.
They called me, and they're like, Sandra, we're looking for your apartment. Which unit are you in? And I'm like, I'm not Sandra. I'm sorry. Like she put in the wrong number or something. And the delivery driver was just, they didn't know what to do. It was a bad situation.
Yeah, I can imagine. But it's also weird that this day and age that I'm like, it's either A, they gave the wrong number, which ended up being my number, or B, this is somehow a scam. And I don't know how. Like, I don't know how they make this work into a scam, but it must be.
Somehow they're trying to get you to buy an NFT. You're not sure how, but it somehow flows back to NFTs.
I have this feeling if I texted them like, hey, I'm not Amanda, sorry, that somehow they're going to use that to hack into my phone and take everything from me.
That'll trigger the NFT if you do
Yes.
that. Yep, that's what it is. You figured it out.
But it's also creepy now that I have a picture of Amanda's front door.
I also, even though I told them that I'm not this person, it's not me, you have the wrong number, they still sent the picture to me at the end of it. I guess just going through protocol,
Yeah, you gotta follow the steps. Or maybe that was just their way of saying like, hey, random guy, it's over now.
This is the end of it. This roller coaster has completed. This week on the show, we'll be taking a look at We're All Going to the World's Fair, which is going to be coming out this week on VOD. We'll also be going over someone watching on the watch list and this week's new releases in theaters, VOD, and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Please remember to review us on iTunes if you get a moment. That'd be extremely helpful. We got a new Saved by the 90s dropping likely this week. Very likely. I'm almost done with the edit. This month we talk about adventure movies. So we're going to be talking about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. We're going to be talking about Mask of Zorro, Cutthroat Island, and The Three Musketeers, which is the Disney one with Charlie Sheen. Mm-hmm. Charlie Sheen is a musketeer. And guess who else is a musketeer? Oliver Platt. Bet you never thought Oliver Platt would be a musketeer, but he is one.
Honestly, I forgot Oliver Platt as a person, let alone an actor.
Well,
Oliver Platt.
Now you've been reminded.
Who's the other musketeer? Because you're telling me Oliver Platt.
Charlie Sheen, yep.
Charlie Sheen. Who do you put with those two?
Here you go. Kiefer Sutherland.
Get the fuck out of
here. And guess what? D'Artagnan is played by none other than Chris O'Donnell.
Are you?
It's the most ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. It's almost as ridiculous as casting Christian Slater in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, who sometimes attempts to put on an accent. So yeah, stay tuned for that. It's something. It's definitely something. I think we can get into our review here. This week we're going to be talking about We're All Going to the World's Fair. As I said, this is dropping on VOD this Friday. I have a synopsis here. Alone in her attic bedroom, teenager Casey becomes immersed in an online role-playing horror game wherein she begins to document the changes that may or may not be happening to her. This is written and directed by Jane Schoenbrunn. Kevin, we'll start it with you. What were your initial impressions of We're All Going to the World's Fair?
I didn't really know what to expect with this. I didn't really know a whole lot of it going in. You know, I do remember you vaguely talking about it. I think
Mm-hmm.
back when it played, whatever festival it played.
Many.
One of
This played a lot of festivals.
Okay, so one of the ones that it played, you saw it. And I
Yeah,
vaguely remember you talking about it, and I think you were like kind of on it.
I was.
So I didn't really have expectations, going into it. I was just like, I'll keep an open mind. I'll give this a shot. And I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised. I found it to be very sad in a lot of different ways. It kept switching up the sadness on me, and I found that to be pretty impressive. And everything just felt so uncomfortable for me and
Mm.
just unsettling in a way that I think the biggest conclusion that I came to while watching it is that me and you and people our age really grew up at the right time, just the absolute right time
Yeah, I
to be
think
there for the internet and like the early stages of it before it became ubiquitous. And then there wasn't smartphones where everyone had, all these apps and recording devices and all these things. Like we got to have like a decent internet that you could help out with, you could find the information that you need to find. It was fun and you kind of grew up with it. But by the time it got to what it is now, we're well past that, because I can't
yeah.
imagine being a teenager with this now as
No,
life.
I honestly like think that if I was a teenager growing up with the internet now, I'm afraid that I would be lost to it, similar to Casey here. Like I think that I would probably be very similar to Casey in how just obsessed and like just lost in the internet she becomes, where it just consumes her life. And
Yeah.
and that's how it is with a lot of people. I mean, for me, it's like borderline. Like I'm almost for first like there's times where it kind of consumes me too, but not to the same degree, And I think that does have to do with our age, like
Yeah,
being
you just you
being
don't
millennials with it.
and you just don't have the free time that a teenager
Yeah,
has. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like if I had that free time, that like yeah, that would be scary.
I one of the things that and to to be clear, like I still rewatching this. So this is my second time seeing this now. Um, First of all, I still enjoyed it the second time around. I still have the same feelings that I had the first time around, where I'm thinking like I liked it. I think that it is a decently made film, but I still come away with it feeling a bit meh. Um, and I think that just has to do with the pacing of it, and I feel like it doesn't really conclude in a way that I just I wish it was a little bit more exciting. I feel like the big thing with this movie is that there's several factors that I really like about it. The realism aspect of it. I feel there's something about this movie that feels very real to me. The
Yeah.
just the way that it's shot, that you have these like kind of dreary like middle America type towns. I love all of the like B-roll, the establishing shots,
This,
all of that stuff. Any movie that takes place in these like kind of depressing towns, like basically where we grew up.
yeah. Is
I'm
this
like
just the Route 30? Is that
yeah,
Route 30?
I'm like it instantly gets bonus points for me because it feels like very kind of docu-fiction esque. The other thing is I like movies that explore the world of internet, like ARGs and creepypasta and that type of thing, because I find all of that stuff to be very fascinating. But when I compare a movie like this to an actual ARG or an analog horror series, for instance, that you can find in the corners of the internet, a lot of those analog horror stories and pieces of media I think are inherently more fascinating than this, where uh, where I think that this is a kind of an interesting character study on people who become totally obsessed and immersed into those things. I think that those things are inherently more interesting, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that that was, and I don't know if that was part of it for me where I didn't really know what this was going to be. And I really didn't have an expectation of what it was going to be. And I certainly didn't know that this was like a quote unquote horror movie going into it. And I never got that vibe from it.
And yeah, and I think
Outside of
that
like the unsettling nature of it all.
and I think that that's another thing is that like when I went into this for the first time, I went in with the expectation of a horror movie, and while there are certain elements of it, and you could easily like this definitely is classified as a horror movie. It's not. It's not really like it's not
Yeah.
really
No,
there. Like there's certain moments, but you know,
it's just more of like a an existential horror of reality, which is, you know, far more horrifying than some dude with a mask that stabs people.
yeah, I think that.
Because like that, you're like, oh, I could just run away from the mask guy if he comes.
Oh yeah,
But the internet's fucking everywhere.
yeah.
Like I know about it. I mean, we're connected so much that I know about Amanda's Chipotle, and I know
Mhm.
that like if you showed me the outside of her house, I'd be like, that's Amanda's
Oh
apartment.
yeah, there's Amanda's house. Nice. Yeah, and I think that that's kind of the I think that that's what I like the most about this movie is that it does give you that kind of unsettling,
Yeah.
unnerving like vibe because you can just see this person, this young woman just losing herself because
But
of
then
this
even
whole thing.
and then even the way that it kind of flips it at the end, I thought was really interesting because you do seem like okay, she's losing it. You know, the blurring lines that you like to get in films a lot these days of the you know reality and all that. So, but then to kind of flip it at the end where you're like, oh yeah, she's a teenager. Like it's tough with them because you don't know it, like with the older person that's you know like the co-star or whatever you want to say
Hmm.
is where he's like concerned, and of course the age difference, so there's this level of like concern on his end. And then with teenagers it's tough to tell if like you should be concerned for them or you should be concerned of them, you know, of what they're capable of doing, because
Mm-hmm.
it seems like they need to be protected, but at the same time it's like, oh no, they know exactly what they're doing. Very
Yeah,
difficult to pin down.
and that's the thing is once the lines become blurred between what is the game and what is real, and you know, is she just playing along in this, or is something really happening to her?
Yeah.
And then also the whole time, I mean, from the moment that you meet the guy
Yeah.
JLB, you're questioning his motives too, because
Yeah, because I think that's also a nice like a representation of, you know, how like our parents were so concerned about like us playing Mortal Kombat and stuff, and like, oh, you know, if you do these things, you're playing these games and stuff, you're gonna end up doing them in real life. And of course, us as kids is like, that's just weird. Like that's, I know
yeah,
not to throw like a spear attached to a rope through someone's chest and then pull them over. I know not to do that. But then you see nowadays where those same parents are on the internet and they're the ones getting hoodwinked into everything,
yeah,
essentially becoming what they're afraid of. It's
yeah,
just like, oh boy, this is messy. The internet just made everything really messy.
yep, yes, it did. But I don't think that there's too many. You know, there's some movies like this, like Slender Man type movies and stuff like that, that attempt to adapt creepypasta over into movies, but I don't think anything has really done it successfully. And I do like the way that this sort of explored that kind of ARG, like those big kind of horror mysteries that
Yeah.
you see pop up on the internet. So I like that, but again, I'll just reiterate, like I think that a lot of them are more fascinating. Like, oh man, have you seen any of the analog horror stuff that floats
No, I
around?
haven't. Yeah, I have no idea what this is referencing. Which is like, oh, it's a online horror thing. Like, I don't. All this terminology means nothing to me.
There's what is one of the most interesting analog horror stories that I've ever seen is the mystery flesh the Flesh Pit National Park, where there was supposedly this strange, it was a flesh pit. It was like a giant cavern made of flesh, and there was this whole like crazy story like behind the mystery, the flesh pit. I mean, it was wild, but I kind of, that might have been my favorite one. But there's a lot of
See,
analog horror stuff that's really cool out there.
and if I was a teenager, like if we were still in high school and you told me about this, like, hey, I was on the internet last night and I found out about this flesh pit, I would probably spend the majority of that night just Googling the flesh pit. But now, now as an older man, you tell me that, I'm like, there's no way I'm typing that into my internet browser. That's not happening. I can't. I don't need that on my computer.
You don't want to look
I
at
just,
flesh.
I'm gonna start getting like weird ass ads for flesh stuff and pits.
There was apparently there was even like a Coke flavor that they pulled from the liquids that were in the flesh pit.
Mhm.
It was called
Yeah.
it was called Coke Heartthrob.
See, even like talking about it, I'm probably still gonna get the ads.
Oh yeah, no. You mentioned it out loud, so
Yeah. God
you you
damn it.
will you will definitely get the ads.
Son
Yeah,
of a bitch.
but I think I
Don't send me a pic.
I just sent Kevin a picture, an ad for the Coke Heartthrob that is from the flesh pit. The, the thing
Unbelievable.
the thing that I like about those is that it is sort of like a game where you want to uncover the mysteries. There's like different websites that have information. There's like different social media accounts that have clues. There's YouTube videos and stuff like that. And like you, I would love to dive into some of these, but I just don't have the time to do it. So fortunately, there's a lot of like videos and stuff, like YouTube videos, where they basically just do all the work for you and they just kind of break down the story and summarize it.
Yeah.
And obviously
Yeah.
that's not as fun than uncovering the mystery yourself, but
Which is fun because it brings me to another thing where I have like my own mysteries, my own adult homeowner mysteries that I have to Google. Like, where do you buy just like scrap drywall? Like, I don't need a whole board of drywall. I just need like a 2 inch by
mm,
5 inch piece of drywall.
yeah,
Where do you get that?
like a little
Where's that
patch.
happen?
Yeah. Yeah,
Those are my mysteries that I'm running down.
I also have dumb little homeowner mysteries that I need to solve that are much more boring than the mystery flesh pit for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, I think that We're All Going to the World's Fair it's an interesting concept. It just didn't quite hit all the right notes for me. Like I think that it has so much going for it, but ultimately I just didn't think that the narrative was really there. I guess I just wanted more out of it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that ultimately I was just disappointed in the overall plot, but I think that the director is has a lot of promise, and I liked where this was going. I liked how it was shot. I loved the look of it, the kind of grungy webcam, just shot on iPhone type of look. It felt very authentic, and I liked Anna Cobb's performance. I thought was quite good as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's for me, it's like a light recommend, but I think you have to go into it knowing that this isn't gonna be a a horror movie in like a conventional horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could see being disappointed by it with that if you go in like with that expectation.
Yeah,
But I will give it props that it got me thinking about a lot of things. So it did spark a lot of thoughts in my mind. So I got to give it props for that. And it seems like it's like deceptively dense in that regard. Where it
yeah.
doesn't feel like a really dense movie, but once you could like start thinking about things and really get like it can take up your day
I,
of
I
just thinking about the internet and
yeah, I completely agree, and I will say that upon a rewatch, I definitely got more out of it than the first time I saw it. Because the first time I saw it, I was not engaged. Like I was just like, okay, when is something going to happen? Like where are we going with this? Like I just was waiting for something to happen. Whereas when I rewatched it this go round, I already knew how it played out, so I was able to sort of examine all of the individual pieces of it, and I think that
yeah.
I came away appreciating it more for that. So there you have it. That's we're all going to the World's Fair. You can check it out on VOD this week. Kevin, what are you going to give it out of 10?
I'd give it I think like a 7.
Nice. I'm sitting at a 6.5 for me
All
on this
right.
one. Yeah. Yeah, check it out. Let's go ahead and talk about some of what we've been watching. I believe, Kevin, I think it's your turn this week. We had a couple weeks off, so I don't know whose turn it is, but we'll say you.
Same me. I watched a bunch of stuff. I might not talk about all of it, or I'll be somewhat brief. But to tie into the whole like Slender Man thing that we were kind of talking about, I finally watched The Empty Man. David
Mm.
Pryor's The Empty Man. And I got to say, I was pretty excited to watch this, and I've been excited to finally get around to this for quite some time. And man, it did not disappoint. I really like this movie.
It's a
This is
surprise,
good
isn't it?
stuff. Yeah,
It is
it's
definitely a surprise.
it's so good, and like that opening sequence of it, the like that prologue or whatever, was just really odd because like I knew about it. I knew that there was this long opening that was kind of different than the the bulk of the movie, you know. So I'm like, I told my wife that, oh, it's like a police procedural type thing, like an investigation type kind of thing. She's like, okay. So we start, and it's like Bhutan. And she's like, what? Are you sure this is the right movie? I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
it's
no.
so weird,
She's
isn't
like,
it?
it is. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm like, I think this is like a long opening setup type thing. And it just keeps going and going. She's like, are you sure? Are we watching the right movie? And man, this movie is just creepy. It's creepy to me. There was some just phenomenal set pieces to it, like all the people like moving as one when he gets to like out in the woods. They're doing their like bonfire thing, and they start doing like their marching, and they start following. Like a lot of this stuff is just I know like the staging of it is something that I've missed in a lot of horror movies.
I might want to rewatch this tonight actually because I have family visiting and they said that they wanted to watch a horror movie,
Oh boy,
which, that
get
just
them.
I'm like, "Oh, whoa, what do I pick here?" And I think that I'm going to choose The Empty Man. I think that this is a really good pick for that.
It is good. I do wonder how Bhutan feels about this movie as a whole.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
I
they
don't
gotta
know.
be like, they gotta be like, come on, man.
Come on, bro.
Why, why Bhutan? Why us? What'd we do? You know?
Yeah. Uh, well, okay. Well, we'll keep things really short. I didn't really see anything, so I watched four movies that were that I'm covering on Saved by the '90s, the ones that I mentioned at the top of the show, and that's pretty much all I watched. I've been in the
Oh
middle of
wow.
yeah, I've been in the middle of moving, and so I haven't really had time to sit down and watch anything. I've been watching Tokyo Vice on HBO
Okay.
Max, and I'm pretty into Tokyo Vice, and I've been watching Moon Knight also. So I've been kind of focusing on TV lately. So yeah.
Gotcha. The other thing I saw was Kimmy, the Soderbergh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and completely forgettable. I didn't really enjoy that at all.
I
It's
liked
just
it.
kind of at the end, I think it's another one of those like circumstances movie where I'm like, if I watched this during the pandemic, you know, when I was holed up in my house for 3 months, I'd be like, hey, this is pretty good, all things considered. But now, you know, being out of it, I'm just like, all right, that was glad you were able to keep yourself busy. Uh, Another thing that's kind of short is I watched the first Resident Evil movie, you know, from 2002,
I
Resident
do.
Evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
And me and my wife decided to watch this because we were talking about Resident Evil, because she beat Resident Evil 2 a couple years back. I never finished Resident Evil 2 because I became a Dark Souls person.
You know, I hate to admit it, but I also did not finish Resident Evil 2. I got very far, but I can't remember where I stopped. And I don't even know why I stopped, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I stopped because Dark Souls 3 came in the mail, and I was like, I'll check this out. I'll flip flop between the two. And I just never went back to Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, oh, let's watch this Resident Evil. Let's check this out. And I gotta say, like, I don't quite understand people that are like, this movie's that like absolutely phenomenal. But for me, like as a video game movie, it's kind of what I want. Like it feels like a video game, and it's like big and fun and entertaining. I mean, she like roundhouse kicks a dog through a window.
Zombie dog.
Yeah, like that's what I want from movies. I want to do stuff you can't do. I want to see people running up a wall, spinning, kicking a dog square in the face, a zombie dog square in the face through a window.
A couple years ago, I went through the whole Resident Evil series from beginning to end, and I loved it. Like, I had a great time with it. I think all the movies are bad, to be clear,
Yeah,
but I think that just rapid firing them, it's like they're just dumb fun. Like, you shouldn't take any of them seriously. I understand, like, the big complaints because Resident Evil is, arguably one of the greatest survival. It's really what defined the genre. It wasn't the first survival horror game, but it's the one that kind of coined the term, really.
yeah,
And it's a scary game. Like it's a scary ass game, and the movie is not at all. So I think that a lot of people, myself included, kind of yearn for a movie adaptation that's like on the same level of horror as the
yeah,
game. So I think that that's part of the problem is like they turned it into an action movie instead of a horror movie. And I was kind of
yeah,
hoping that the new Resident Evil that came out last year was that, but it's not. It's just another one that's pretty bad. Maybe the Netflix series that's coming out, I think this year, will be the horror one. I'd like for them to just redo or adapt Resident Evil 4. Like cuz I think that that would be really interesting to see how they handle that rather than the typical zombies, do the crazy
yeah.
weird like Eastern European cults and stuff.
But I think I'll probably continue with the Resident Evils. I'm gonna definitely check out the set. We'll see
they,
how much, you know.
they get worse and
Like,
worse. I mean, I'll tell you that.
yeah, I kind of expect them to. You know what I mean? Judging from the first one, it's like it's probably downhill from here. But anyway, I also checked out Joan Micklin Silver's Between the Lines from 1977. This is on Criterion. This is a kind of low stakes ensemble comedy, workplace comedy that's just fantastic. It's just a fantastic movie. It's kind of about uh it's about a this like underground newspaper in Boston called the Back Bay Main Line. So it's all the people working at this paper, between the writers and the photographers, all that. They work in this little dumpy office type thing, and it's kind of coming to an end, and that's essentially what the movie is. Is like people are just thinking about leaving. Like the best days are behind it. The paper might be being sold to a new owner, and of course, what's going to happen there, that type of thing. But it's really just all these like little moments of this crew of people, some friends, some not, just working for this paper. And you got a lot of like early roles here. You got Jeff Goldblum in a really early role. You got John Hurd in like a super early role. Bruno Kirby, like just a bunch of people, and like it's just so like carefree, and it's just a really fun time. I was
I,
really surprised by this one.
yeah, I just added this to my watch list. This looks awesome.
Yeah,
This looks right up my alley.
it's so good. Yeah, you're gonna love it because if you like that type of movie, you know the ensemble,
I do.
like yeah. Oh, and it was funny watching that somewhat recently after watching The French Dispatch, and it's just like, yeah, I know. There's a part of me. It's like I need more ensemble quasi comedies about newspapers. I don't know why, but it works. I like it. Another horror movie is You Are Not My Mother by Kate Dolan. This is North Dublin housing estate. Char's mother disappears. She disappears for like a little bit, just a touch, like half a day, maybe a quarter of a day. She disappears and then she comes back. But guess what? Is she different? Did something happen? Is she herself? But they give you some small clues in the beginning that you know she has trouble. She suffers from mental illness, so this might be just be more of the same, you know, par for the course, or maybe something did happen. Uh, this is, I actually kind of like this one a good bit, especially the way that it ends, because of what the daughter ends up having to do, like in order to, she essentially has to do something to save her mom. And when it plays into the idea of like, is there something wrong with her, or is she just having, you know, an episode or something like that? What happens, what transpires is really fucked up. And it's just a really disturbing movie. And I was quite surprised by it.
This just came out, right? All
Yeah,
right, it looks like March 25th it came out.
I think it
Oh
was
yeah.
I rented it on Amazon. That's where I saw it.
Yeah, so this is relatively new.
It's pretty
God,
good.
you
It's pretty
know,
good.
I feel like I saw this, but I cannot remember a single thing about it. This is so bizarre. Like I'm watching the trailer here and like it looks familiar, but I just cannot freaking remember anything that happens. Maybe I just
Well,
saw the trailer.
and it's like they have like the family has a history of like doing witchcraft, and like the town knows about it, so that comes into play. And then like the grandmother that lives with them is kind of controlling, so there's this this aspect of it of like, is she just trying to break free from her family that's kind of controlling her, or does she actually kind of need to be controlled?
Yeah, it looks cool. I'm down. I'm down to check this out.
And that's the only other thing would be the Night House, David Bruckner, Night House with Rebecca Hall, which was it was alright. It felt a lot like what was that movie? Invasion or something. Where like the people break into the house and she ends up finding out a secret about her husband. This is kind of the same thing except the husband's passed away
Mm-hmm.
and she can't move on. He's like maybe haunting the house, and then she
I
starts finding out some
yeah,
secrets.
I thought this movie was really cool. I watched it on a plane,
Nice.
the funny thing was, so I watched it on a plane, and I forgot the name of it. I liked it. I was like, oh man, that was really good. And then like a day later, I forgot the title, and for like the next 2 weeks, I was like trying to figure out what the hell movie it was that I saw until I finally found it again. But yeah,
I,
I liked this.
there was some stuff that I liked, some of the stuff that I didn't like. I did, when she starts getting out his, because he's an architect, she starts getting out his books and seeing his like he's making like an opposite house. Like I
Mm-hmm.
found that really interesting and everything that took place there, but like kind of the explanation that explains it all at the end, I just made no sense to me whatsoever.
All right, let's talk about some of what's hitting theaters this week. Got a potentially biggie here. The Northman is coming out. I don't know about you. I'm very excited for this one.
Are you all about the Northman?
Oh yeah.
The Northman.
Are you excited for it? Do you have any anticipation for the Northman?
I'm gonna go ahead and say no, with it being Robert Eggers. I'm kind of like, no thanks. Alexander Skarsgård, not really. Vikings. I have no interest in Vikings. I don't know why.
I like Viking stuff. Yeah, initially wasn't super into this. Like I was like, looks all right. But then I think it was like the new trailer or whatever the last trailer was that came out that really sold me on it, and I was like, all right, you have my attention now, Northman. We also have the Bad Guys coming out. That's the animated movie, and it also looks like the unbearable weight of massive talent is maybe getting a
Yes.
wider release.
Okay.
So it looks like that's hitting way more theaters on Friday. So stay tuned for that. I'm excited about that one too.
Hell yeah. I'm all about that one.
All right, on VOD this week. Let's see. On the 19th we have Bloody Oranges. That is a very dark comedy that I did not enjoy at all. We have on the 22nd, we're all going to the World's Fair. We have 9 Bullets coming out. That looks like a action thriller. We got Sexual Drive. Which is an unconventional triptych, equal parts thriller, sex comedy, and gastronomy.
Huh. Mhm.
Okay.
What?
Follows the seemingly unconnected lives of 3 people around Japan and their appetites, both culinary and carnal.
Oh, okay. I got
Okay.
you.
All right.
I see what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's all I have for VOD. Let me check. Let me check Netflix real quick. See what's dropping there. On the 19th on Netflix, we have White Hot: The Rise and Fall of Abercrombie and Fitch. And then that's it. That's really it.
Gotcha. All right.
Blu-ray this week. We got Heavy Metal coming out in 4K. This is a double pack that has the original Heavy Metal from 1981 and then also Heavy Metal 2000. I liked Heavy Metal 2000 a lot actually, and the soundtrack, man, hell of a soundtrack on that. Let's see, we got In the Heat of the Night coming out in 4K. Night Creatures from 1962 Cabin in the Woods coming out in 4K. There's looks like some sort of box set from Arrow called Rogue Cops and Racketeers, two crime thrillers from Enzo Castorelli.
Nice.
Let's see, Jackass Forever, VHS 94, Cyrano from last year, Only Yesterday from 1991, The Humans from last year, The Desperate Hour with Naomi Watts from last year, The Exorcism of God, Alive from 2003. Remember that one? The Kid Amaro?
Yeah.
I really liked that movie, and I really want to revisit that because it's been forever since I've seen it.
I feel like I liked it, but I also don't remember. I'm
Yeah,
sure I did.
I remember thinking that it was awesome, but I'd like to revisit that. That's pretty much all I have. What about Criterion's?
Oh, we got two. We got a double. Frank Tashland's The Girl Can't Help It. She just can't. Can't help it. 1956. It's got all sorts of stuff on there. One of them being an interview with John Waters.
Ooh.
So you got that. You got Vittorio De Sica's A Miracle in Milan. His follow-up to Bicycle Thieves. 1951.
Nice.
Pick those up.
Yeah. Do it. You dummy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @FilmPulseNet and @FilmPulseKevin. And if you have a moment, consider giving us a review on iTunes. That'd be very much appreciated. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.